Hi, my name is Brenda Litchfield, and I've been here at the University of South Alabama since 1990, which is quite a while. I came to here from Florida State University. Now I've got a little bit more about my background, as I started off as an elementary teacher, then I went to middle school, then I taught high school, then here at South Alabama I taught undergraduates, and now I just teach graduates. It doesn't really matter whether it's a second grader or a fifth grader or a graduate student. They all really need to be active participants in their learning. One of the things that I really try to get my students to do is to partner with each other or to collaborate. Because when students work together, they have the benefit of explaining things to each other, hearing how other people think, being witness, so to speak, to other people's critical thinking and problem-solving skills. And so that helps everybody. Also, one thing that I think is very important for education and classroom activities is real-world application. You know, a lot of times we have students and we tell them things and we tell them more things, but it's that application and the kinds of assignments that we create for the students that can really help the students bring it home. I'm a big proponent of no tests in my classroom. I think I've only given one midterm and I have never given a final, because I think when students produce something and when they do something productive, that gets them to learn a whole lot more. So that's pretty much my philosophy of teaching, being a partner, collaborating, and doing real-world kinds of things. My research interests fall really along the lines of how students can be better learners. One of my major interests is in motivation, because I think motivation is so critical. Regardless of if the student is a second grader or a graduate student, if he or she is not motivated to listen to what you want to do, then it doesn't matter what kinds of activities you have, what kind of field trips you go on, or anything that you do, they're just not going to pay attention. So I think instructors at all levels really need to look at motivation. Now, some of my graduate students and I have done a lot of work on motivation, and another area is self-regulated learning. And this is an area of metacognition, where students look at what they do, they plan what they do, they evaluate what they do, and they adjust based on what they think that they have accomplished. So it's really important that students are active participants in their learning. And through my research in these different areas, these are the kinds of things that we look at. Because if we think about students, we expect that they come to the classroom and that they know how to problem solve, they know how to think critically, they know how to listen, they know how to take notes, they know how to evaluate their learning. But we don't directly teach them those things, which are the foundation of everything. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at in my research with my doctoral students. If I were to meet a student that's coming to South Alabama, I would say, you have made a great choice. One of the things about this university that is so good is that it's small. And I know some people might say, oh, I don't want to go to a small university. But here, you don't get lost in the crowd. I mean, you really know people, your professors know your name. So it's a nice place, a nice homey atmosphere kind of thing. And I think it's very good for collaboration. I know for faculty, because it is so small, we work on projects with a lot of different faculty, and in business or engineering and things like that. Whereas if I was at a larger university, that's a little hard to do because there's just so many people and so many things going on all the time. So a student that comes here gets the benefit of a smaller university and lots of interaction, and the faculty are also happy. Where I think education is going in the future, well, it's two things. Number one, and it's already happened, is online education, and that is just taking over a lot of different kinds of things. But one of the things we have to be careful with in online learning is to make sure that it's still good, it's still instructionally sound. Sometimes the online learning turns into electronic page turners. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do in instructional design, is to work out good models of things where students are involved and they learn just as much or maybe more in online learning. The second thing that I've been involved with is global education. Now the world is getting very, very small, and we've had a lot of faculty members go to other countries. In fact, I've been to China twice and working with universities over there. We have partnerships with schools in China and elsewhere where their students are coming to visit us. So we're looking at global education, we're looking at understanding other cultures and seeing if we can work together in many, many different ways. Let's see, what makes a good instructional design doctoral student? I think it's organization. And because that's very important, organization and time management. And really starting off at the beginning. You know, we have some doctoral students that come in here and they take a course and they do a project, a paper on one thing, a paper on another one, a paper on another one. But it's the doctoral students who get that one idea. It doesn't have to be really honed down, but they get that one idea and they stay with that the whole time, so that by the time it comes to write their dissertation, what they have got is a pretty good knowledge of the field, of the background, of the major players in the field, and it's much easier for them to take off on their own dissertation. So organization, time management, and really a very good focus. The one essential skill that I think is most important for an instructional designer is creativity. I've always wanted to teach a course in creativity around here, but there's really no place in the curriculum for that. But we have people from a lot of different areas, and sometimes people are more creative than others, and sometimes some areas are more creative than others. Like when we have people that come from education, you know, former teachers, they just by virtue of what they've gone through are very creative. But then we get people from some other fields and they're not very creative. And so that's something that really can add a lot to all the design, all the instruction, and everything that you do as an instructional designer. So I would say creativity, to me, is probably one of the most important skills. One of the most common instructional design comp questions has something to do with theory and background. As instructional design, we really have two areas. We've got a whole list of instructional designers and real important people in the field, but then we also have a big long list of theorists, you know, educational psychologists, psychologists that really form the basis for what these instructional designers do. And so as an instructional designer, you really need to be able to apply these theories. And so I've seen many comp questions have to do with, okay, name 3 or 4 theorists and tell us what their major works are and how it's influenced you as an instructional designer. So my best tip was to pick out 4 or 5, maybe 6 theorists, know what they do, know how that applies to instructional designer, because I think that is the foundation and basis for what we need to know in this field. My favorite thing about the Mobile area is the water. I love the water. My father was in the Navy, and so I always grew up around the water, and Mobile, that was one of the reasons I chose Mobile for that. Plus, it's a real kind of laid-back southern town. As long as you don't eat all fried food, you're okay. But Mobile is a nice, very friendly place.